My boss's daughter said, "Enjoy the company hoodie and gift card," laughing as she fired me and withholding my $100,000 bonus. During the Series B pitch, the lead investor reviewed my termination papers. He slid them back to the CEO and said coldly, "Congratulations, you just lost your company." I got fired in front of the entire company during our quarterly meeting. No warning, no private conversation, just Madison, the CEO's daughter, and our new chief culture officer, standing there with a cheap company hoodie and a $50 gift card to some juice bar that doesn't even exist in my area. "Unfortunately, your Q4 bonus didn't meet the updated KPI rubric, so it won't be awarded," she announced with this fake sympathetic smile. That bonus was $100,000, and I literally wrote the original KPI rubric she was talking about. Here's the thing. I'd been at TechVibe for 6 years. I built their entire operational backbone from scratch. All their backend systems, vendor relationships, fulfillment processes, everything that made the company actually function. Madison had only been there 6 months, hired straight out of her influencer lifestyle with zero qualifications except being the CEO's daughter. She hated me from day one because people actually respected my work. When I caught her billing an $18,000 wellness experience that was actually her bachelorette party in Palm Springs, HR told me to focus on positive momentum. When I flagged suspicious budget transfers, she started leaving me out of meetings and removing my name from projects. But here's what nobody knew. 3 months earlier, I'd done something smart, really smart. See, when I rebuilt their tech infrastructure, I did it through my own LLC. I buried a licensing clause deep in the vendor contracts, clause 12.7b. It stated that if the company terminated me without formal review and documented cause, the perpetual license to all the systems I'd built would immediately revoke. I ran it through my personal attorney. Everything was legal, signed, and filed properly. Their own legal team rubber-stamped it without reading carefully. After Madison fired me, I didn't argue. I just smiled, took the hoodie, and left. HR didn't even have me sign exit paperwork. That's how sloppy they were. They knew something was off, but they did it anyway. 1 week later, TechVibe had their big Series B pitch with Redwood Capital. They were trying to secure $50 million. Madison was there in her designer outfit, giving this polished presentation about culture-forward architecture and strategic partnerships. The CEO looked proud. The board looked confident. That's when Daniel Hayes, the lead investor, opened his due diligence folder. He pulled out my termination memo and read it silently. Then he pulled out the second document, my clause 12.7b notification letter that I'd sent via certified mail. The room went dead quiet. "This termination," Daniel said calmly, "was it approved by legal?" Madison stuttered something about culture fit. The CEO mumbled about HR handling it. Daniel held up the clause document. "This states that licensing of your core backend systems was contingent upon continued employment of Samantha Rodriguez, designated as key personnel. Revocation is immediate upon breach." You could hear a pin drop. "When you terminated Miss Rodriguez without cause, without legal review, and without documentation," Daniel continued, "you didn't just fire your head of operations. You terminated the license to your entire infrastructure." The general counsel went white. The CTO buried his face in his hands. "You no longer own your backend systems," Daniel said. "The fulfillment integrations, the customer data pipeline, the API logic, the vendor stack, none of it belongs to you anymore. What you're pitching us today is vaporware built on software you have no legal right to operate." Madison tried to interrupt. Daniel ignored her completely. He stood up, gathered his papers, and looked directly at the CEO. "Congratulations," he said coldly. "You just lost your company." Then he walked out, taking $50 million with him. The room erupted. Board members shouted. Madison tried to blame me. The CEO clutched his chest, looking like he might pass out. Legal frantically searched for loopholes that didn't exist. I wasn't even there to see it. Daniel told me everything afterward. He'd actually invited me to consult on the acquisition of my own systems, on my terms, for significantly more than that $100,000 bonus. Turns out that cheap hoodie was the most expensive piece of clothing TechVibe ever purchased.